and welcome to Good News Friday. Mike Simon is here. I'm Joy Arbor. Happy Friday, everybody. And I wish that, sometimes we talk about the good news and we want to try to focus in on the good news. Unfortunately, not all the news is good. There's the report coming from the USDA that 34 million Americans are in a state of food insecurity. And folks, 9 million of them are children. Mike, you and I, we talk about this from time to time, and you shared with me an alarming statistic, and it's something that it really messes with my heart. And that is that 1 out of 6 children in any community are hungry. And it's something that shouldn't happen in our country. It's absolutely terrifying to think that in our communities where we have so much plenty in some areas, there is so much disparity in others, and what we can do about that. Luckily, there are a lot of people that understand the issues associated with hunger. They understand how the challenges of food insecurity can be met, and that is with feeding people and getting them food, nutritious food. There are plenty of pantries out there. And we here at Simon Solutions, we're honored to serve in the collection of data on the pantries as they're serving, giving so much assistance from a food perspective to so many out there that are challenged at this time. To focus in on data, Mike, is so important. We just got off the phone with the food bank that was looking at bringing this in. And one of the goals that was shared by them was to be able to track the amount of food that is given out, not just the weight of the food, how much food, but demographics. Because their funders are wanting to see this type of information. They're willing to give donations to fund food, but they need to see how much food is given out. It's a very difficult, challenging time, but being able to produce with merit and accountability how much food insecurity is going on is actually causing many to reach down into their pockets, to dig deep down into their purses and their bank accounts, and to give, to fund, to try to help end hunger. So the data is helping.
You know that food insecurity is not for the poor.
Right, exactly.
I'm reminded of a story of a pastor here in my community who was he was at one time in charge of the food bank in our community, and he was at a church, and he looked out his office window one day and he saw a woman sitting in a newer model SUV, full-size SUV, sitting out the parking lot. And she was sitting out there, and she sat out there about 45 minutes. And he was curious. He goes, why she's out there?
Yeah.
And he thought, well, I'm going to go out there and see if maybe she's broke down and needs some help.
Yeah.
And so he went out there, and he walked up to the window there, and she had her hand in her, covering her face. And then she looked up, she saw him. She goes, hi, how are you? And he said, well, I'm Pastor so-and-so. I'm with the church, and I run the food bank here at our church and all that. She goes, yeah, I know. And she goes, and she goes, I don't know how to quite say this, but could I get some food from you today? And he goes, well, sure you can. And she goes, well, I've been sitting out here for 45 minutes wrestling whether it's okay for me to go in there and get food from you for free. And here am I sitting in this nice SUV, and my husband's a fireman. And he gets a paycheck, get a reasonable amount of paycheck. He said, but we're mortgaged up to the hilt. We got car payments up to the whatever. And he says, we simply ran out of money and didn't realize it. And now I don't have any money for food for this week. And the pastor said, well, he says, I can help you. And she goes, oh, I'm relieved. And he escorted her out of the SUV and into the food bank, and he helped her. And he says, and later on he was telling me this story, and he says, you know what? He said, the food insecurity just ain't for the poor and those you see out in the street and have a hunger hungry, feed, and all that, or will work for food. He says it hits the middle class.
Yeah.
And he says, I didn't know this was happening across America. And it is. It certainly is.
Mike, it's alarming. And, these are people that they're not looking for a handout. They're not looking for help. However, they get themselves into a situation, and the challenges that continue with the inflation, with prices going up on things. I mean, the basic necessities, the fundamentals, if you will, are very cost prohibitive for so many people nowadays. And this is where the challenge is. And the living wage, we talk about what does it mean to have a sense of security, a standard of living, which is common, fundamental, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And the wages, are continuing to rise. Are they rising at the point of inflation and trying to keep up, right? And so there's all kinds of variables that are going on here, and a person, may have a job, but as I've heard it said many times, yeah, I've got a job. I've got 2 or 3 jobs. I'm trying to make ends meet because we can't meet our bills, our payments, and we're not living in luxury or anything, right? Just trying to keep the basics, the lights on, the utilities paid. And then many times, by the time everything is paid, you've got a place to live, you've got a car to drive. The one thing that is compromised many times, even from a family perspective, the last thing, food. And that's such a shame. Being able to keep track of data, here's the positive. Here's where we find the good news nowadays. Being able to keep track of that data, though, from a pantry perspective, it may be a small church is keeping track of this data, but how important is that to verify, okay, here's the kinds of challenges that we're seeing here. And let's give you some demographics. We're serving this age group here. We're serving this particular group here that's challenged in this area of our community for whatever reason. We're serving this area here. We are giving assistance, and we're even able to break this down into pounds. A lot of pantries are measuring the food distribution by pounds, by weight, right? So in Oasis Insight, our specific way of working from a pantry perspective that we've designed, developed, you can track all this information. But this information that you're putting in, that your volunteers, your staff are putting in, then being able to report all this information concisely, accurately. Here is the data. Here is where we are with our distribution. There are people that understand this. Okay, we have a huge issue here. We see that you guys are tracking all this information, so we will fund additional purchase of food. And this is the process. This is how it's working. We just got off the phone with this food bank there. That's how their process is working for their pantries. There's money from donors, but they want to donate to an agency that has verified needs. It's as simple as that. So if there is the positive here, there are people that are willing to help, and producing data is what gives them that permission to move forward and help you. So keep track of the data. We here at Simon Solutions, we're committed to continue with our innovation, our development, to give you features that's going to expedite the process for those that are in the line, to expedite that entire process to get them in, get them out with the food that they need, and be able to track the information along the way. Mike, we're trying to find the lesser of the bad here, right? But if there is that, it is that there are a lot of people that are willing to help, but they're looking for that way to keep track of data. So they want to see the results. In this time of challenge, we here at Simon Solutions, we hear a lot of stories, but there's a lot more good stories as we're talking with pantries that have gone from the agency that's inside of a church building out into the parking lot. They're doing drive-through pantries, right? So where the person pulls up, they're able to produce an ID card. You can create that within Oasis Insight, be able to scan that card really quickly, input the data, the food assistance, input that data in a card. There's all kinds of variables that we're finding right now as to where Oasis Insight is able to serve with respect to the clients that are there seeking assistance. I think that's so important. Mike, we were talking, this was back during the pandemic. There was that one food bank that you could see the lines out into the interstate of people that were coming in, right? And you and we were talking.
Yeah, I saw it.
We were talking. Yeah, it's hard to believe. And you and I were talking about, well, if they only had the barcode scanners out there and the people using the barcode scanners, because they were collecting information and data, but that was bogging them down. And you could see them out there with a pencil and a clipboard. They're keeping information. Man, exactly. I mean, it's like, this is not the best way to do that. So taking this information, putting it into a concise database, being able to work from that component on a tablet that's out there in the field, that's out there in the parking lot. This is where we're moving from innovation. This is where we can help here at Oasis Insight. So the whole process is we're talking about the continued need to feed the hungry. We can help here at Simon Solutions. We've come up with features like the barcode scanning capability. Now we have the client kiosk, where the client can actually fill out a lot of information there on their own with their own computer. Mike, this is big time. And I think that a lot of agencies were challenged during the pandemic, but here's the positive thing. Out of that challenge, we were able to produce more features, more innovation, to bring everybody, together. So really important parts of working as we see food insecurity continuing to rise here. We can help with being able to document all this information, keep track of that data, produce the reports, and get the kind of funding that you need. That's where our hearts are here as we continue to try to make the whole processes easier. So
we streamline the processes. We make them faster. And like the San Diego Food Bank, they had people standing in line for up to 3 hours. And they brought in our tools that we recommended, and they cut that time down to 30 minutes. It's incredible.
Mike, that's what we can do. That's where our hearts are here. We want to make that process easier for everyone that's involved. So give us a chance. We'd love to talk with you about that. We answer any questions, do a demonstration. We'd be happy to share with you what that barcode scanning capability looks like, the client kiosk, how you could utilize that. File uploads, all kinds of different capabilities, client broadcast. Oh, Mike, we're not finished. So we take the bad news. There's a lot of hunger in the United States, but hey, let's also take the good news. We are helping to feed the hungry with the data, and the data does not lie. So help us out here to help you with being able to furnish those reports and such. For all of us here at Simon Solutions, we hope you are well and taking care, and we are committed to make your lives easier and better for all of us. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend.